Du bist Timo.
Du bist Lisa.
Du bist der Intendant vom Burghof in Lörrach.
Und du bist meine Gesprächspartnerin im Burghof-Podcast.
Und wir reden einfach mal, was hier so los ist.
Let's talk!
Hi, hallo. Heute hört ihr nur mich, Lisa, am Anfang der Folge. Ich habe zum Anlass der Kunstinstallation Paint the Town Red mit der Künstlerin Esmeralda Conde Ruiz gesprochen. Das Kunstprojekt wird mit dem zusätzlichen Engagement des Festivalsponsors Sparkasse Lörrach-Rheinfelden zur Jubiläumsausgabe von Stimmen ermöglicht. Die Installation wird im Eingangsbereich vom Burghof zu sehen sein. Der Eingangsbereich wird rot gestaltet und darin sind ganz viele verschiedene Stimmen und Sprachen zu hören, die mit KI erzeugt, einen Chor bilden. Ob der jetzt immer singt oder auch nur spricht, all das, darüber rede ich jetzt mit der Künstlerin. Und auch die Herausforderungen, die KI mit sich bringt, sowohl für das eigentliche Projekt, für andere Projekte, die sie schon hatte, aber auch was das vielleicht für den Kunstmarkt oder die zeitgenössische Kunst generell bedeutet. Also hört rein. Das folgende Gespräch ist übrigens auf Englisch aufgenommen. Die Künstlerin lebt in London und wir haben uns am besten auf Englisch verständigen können. Ich hoffe, ihr könnt unserem ganzen Gespräch folgen.
Hi, it's Lisa and I'm really happy to welcome Esmeralda Conde Ruiz as a partner today to talk about her installation Paint the Town Red, which is coming to Lörrach and the Stimmfestival in next month in July. So welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about your installation. It's Paint the Town Red is a multimedia installation and has as a theme language and the human voice. What did you think about it? What is your motivation for that project?
So when I was invited to create something for the festival, my starting point was the location and the history of the festival. I found it very interesting to know that there has been stages in 3 different countries and that everything is sort of walkable and 5 minutes away or 10 minutes away, and you're suddenly in France, you're suddenly in Switzerland, you're suddenly in Germany, and this is all part of the festival. And so that was immensely inspiring to me, and I immediately thought, okay, it needs to be something about languages. And then we looked at the site, the space, the beautiful Burghof building, the huge glass building, and that I found also very inspiring. Often I take these inspirations from material or colors that are around, and for me, I just felt like the architecture of the building was very different. And so with these 2 elements, somehow I ended up in the world of text-to-speech technology, sort of these translation models that are for all of us accessible. And it was a long journey to get there, but it slowly evolved. And I tried lots of translations, first Swiss, German, French, and played around with it until I realized that there was certain translations that would be wrong all the time. And then I wanted to create something with this idea, okay, so how does a digital mistake look like? And how can we show that as part of a voice festival? And that was sort of the starting point. And it's a long journey when you start on a new project. But the interesting thing that we wanted to do was we really wanted to include only artificial voices. So for Timo, the artistic director, that's who I mean with we had long conversations and why it's so important to talk about choirs and voices in this festival. And we really wanted to highlight artificial voices. So for me, it was clear, okay, I have to do something with wrong translations, a mistake, and artificial voices. And that was sort of the starting point.
The translation error is also reflected in the name of the installation, Paint the Town Red, which could be just interpreted as a colorful scheme, but also to have a night out. In German, we say einen drauf machen. And I just wanted to ask you again about the voice. What is a voice for you? Is it influenced by language, or is it sounds that humans make? What would you say is a voice?
What is a voice? I mean, I come from it from the art context, so a voice can be very symbolical. You can give someone a voice, which means, you let someone speak, you amplify someone. But I guess in this festival, singing or the voice as a medium or material is much bigger, and the context can be much bigger. And that's why I'm so excited that, art is invited to come to this festival and show a different angle of voice, where you can think about voice more in that sense. Voice as material and what sort of contexts might lay behind it. And, language and voice is very connected. And the beauty in music and singing is that you don't have to speak the language to understand it. Or when you're in a choir, you learn lots of languages and songs that you might not be able to speak the language of. And so all these nuances come into this beautiful festival. So I think what is a voice is a big question, obviously, but it's I think a question that should be kept asked, and it's a bit also what we want to do with this artwork. It's like, what is human? What is a human voice, and where does it? How do you clarify a human voice as well? How do you? Lots of thoughts, but it's also like we're so used to human voices, and now our world is changing to artificial voices. Can we even identify them, and how do they sound like, and how will they become very normal very quickly in our lives? And all these aspects, are really, really fascinating. And I hope that we can keep asking that question, what is a voice?
Perfect. So you're giving us the frame for the festival. I'm looking forward to that. Let's talk about some previous projects you had. Among your many projects, one stands out to me, and it was in Dresden 2022, when you had the installation 24/7, it's called. And you also used AI and transformed it into polyphonic singing and integrated it into sounds of server farms. This project seems to be something which connects science, art, and society, because that was also the cooperation you had there between the university, the Technische Universität Dresden, and the Schaufler Foundation. Is there something from this experience that influences your work now in Paint the Town Red?
Yes, I mean, I am like anyone else, someone who does not work with artificial intelligence in that way. And with this residency, I had access, which is very rare, for someone who has no engineering skills or doesn't come from these fields. And I had a chance to speak to so many researchers, PhD students, but also I got access to the server farm and at the campus. And so I could speak and see and listen to, the infrastructure that we need to create these wonderful technologies, but also the downside, what lies behind it, that every time we use these technologies, there's a huge sound somewhere in a server farm, and it's unbearable, that noise. So I made a very complex sound installation with all these noises, us using these these cloud services, and at the same time the server farm making the noise, and sort of I made a surreal fictional space where you can hear both at the same time, which sometimes is very beautiful and sometimes absolutely horrible. And so after this residency, I had so much knowledge, I was like, oh my God, I understand this technology much more. I never saw myself as an artist with working with AI narratives, to be honest. But after having sort of immersed myself for over 2 years into this topic, I felt like, okay, this feels like it's just a starting point. But it was important for me that I continue my journey from the angle of what is publicly accessible to me. I don't have access to these supercomputers. I don't have access to server farms in my normal life. So what can I do as a normal human being? And I'm not so interested just in the technology. I'm much more interested in the human and what that means. Why are we using these technologies? What are we doing with it? And so on. So for Paint the Town Red, for instance, it's like the why is very important to me. So why, AI voice synthesis is not a new phenomenon, but recently deep learning has changed, and we have made it possible to generate highly natural sounding speech. And that's very, very new. And then also over the past years, what has changed as well is that there's automated translation on the internet services. So anywhere you go, you have this nice little service, your website gets translated into your language. And I just wanted to capture that. So this change in time, these technologies evolve very, very, very quickly. And I think, to go back to your original question, I think with this sort of residency that I had there and starting that journey of thinking about artificial intelligence, it just helped me to understand better what I can do for Stimmen Festival, and how I can observe these technologies. What's happening right now? Because in a few years' time, not even few years, probably a few months, OpenAI will launch their new app, and then they apparently they have a new voice app which can imitate your voice when you just need a few seconds of anyone's voice. So our Spotify interview here can be easily used as a clone of us. So it will change very quickly. So therefore, it was really important for me, for Paint the Town Red, to capture how these voices sound right now, and hopefully we've done it justice, and so in a few years' time you can go back and be like, yeah, that does sound very different.
I heard OpenAI is holding it back, this software, because it's not secure enough.
Well, imagine, they've never done that before. Imagine.
Yes.
No one has ever said that before. So it's like, oh my God.
Yeah. So a little bit of challenge, and also a little bit of, really interesting developments that can be possible with AI. And what did you take as a challenge, and what did you take as an insight of this collaboration in Dresden, from your interdisciplinary collaboration, but also from the work with AI?
Well, I was just very lucky to find the right people to talk to. Usually when you are an artist, time is very rare, and to have the luxury to just have a lot of time to spend with really highly skilled people just brings you quickly somewhere else, like the depth of the work that you create is much better because of that. And I can, now that I'm back in London and do my regular work, of course I can read and talk to people, but it's never as intense and as knowledgeable as these sort of residencies. So yeah. Obviously, they come. Sorry to interrupt. They come obviously with challenges because those two worlds do not necessarily work well together because they're so different. Universities very structured in terms of how they work. They're very internal. They all go on holiday in summer. They come back. An artist doesn't have that. We don't have these. Yeah, there's these patterns that. But also other ways, interdisciplinary collaboration is not a given. It doesn't work for everyone, and it's not necessarily for everyone. There needs to be two people who really want to meet in the middle and want to learn something from the other person rather than, just staying in their safety zones and their comfort zones. So, but yeah, I highly recommend it. I love this sort of collaborations. I do like learning from other worlds, let's say. I find them very inspiring. Yeah.
Perfect. And what would you say is the difference between the integration of AI in your artistic practice compared to traditional or other forms of artistry? Do you find is your process different? Do you need other skills?
I mean, I don't use AI literally in my work. I don't use the technology, like I don't code, I don't come up with algorithms, I don't come up with rules, I don't create data sets, I don't train, I don't do these things. I understand very well how these models and architecture work, but I don't do that in my practice, in my artistic practice. What I do though is I look at these technologies from a different angle, further outside, and look also more at the human, let's say the public. And that's what I find interesting, these complex connections and tensions. There's so many angles with these technologies that you can think about and look at. So I'm not so interested just creating work with artificial intelligence. I'm much more interested in society and why we're doing it.
Okay, you mentioning a point which I find is also valid in the contemporary scientific discussion about AI and the art, or in German künstliche Intelligenz und die Künste, which there is a new handbook just released from 2024 and is also questioning whether AI serves or as a tool and acts as a matter of a tool, or is an autonomous creator. And you make this distinction just right away, and you would say it's more a tool than an autonomous creator, would you?
Yes and no. I was told to think about these current AI models as an intern. So they're well-meaning, but they do mistakes, so you better check what they're doing. But at the same time, in Paint the Town Red, we have I have a how do I describe it now? It's one of the voices did something that I didn't ask the voice to do at all, and it just went wild and did really something close to surrealism, like really crazy. And so did I create this? I triggered something in that voice, but I did not expect what was coming out. So in that sense, it can be interesting what comes out, but it's also more, the bigger question is always like access. Who has access to these models? Can artists really all use them? And are they even like of interest to any artists or any creatives? And then the second question for me would be also more like, how has this model been trained? What's the data that has been used? And where does that data come from? Has it been labeled correctly so people get credited if we're using other people's work? And also, if people who are not creative are using creative work to train their models, can they please sort of make notes how they've trained the models and so on? I think there's a lot of, it's currently like legally the wild, wild west, so people can do whatever they want, and there are laws, something like copyright and consent to say, yes, I want my work to be part of your data set or not. And so I think there's a lot of big questions to be asked and to be, new laws need to come and all of these things, but we're very, very slow, sadly, and the technology is very, very quick. So there are some problems there, but I still think there's also good things in it, like there's, like everything is good and bad. It's just, I think now that the whole world's sort of embracing this technology, we need to be just very careful in terms that we create the right technology, not just the fastest technology.
Yes, that's a good mindset, I would say. Do you happen to have an overview about AI and the contemporary art? So would you say it's a new form of art, or is AI a reflection of a broader artistic movement? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, artists have always worked with technology. It's not because it was popular. It was more, there was a need to work with it, or a curiosity, or, I don't know, every artist is very different. There's certain materials that speak to you more than others. So there's always been technology that has been used for artists' practices. What is different, at least in my opinion, is that currently there's such a hype around this technology. It's just unbelievable. Like, there's no escape. Every museum is programming something with artificial intelligence. Everything has to do with artificial intelligence suddenly. So that's different to other times in the arts, I would say. I can't recall a time where another technology was so hyped. I don't know if that answers your question, but
it gives me a feeling that you as an artist have more than I could possibly have from my desk here. Thank you. It sounds, as I also find it true to be in the scientific discourse, we have to deal with something different every day, like plagiarism, or is the text written by AI or a student, or where does your personal creativity start and where does it end? Where is it a help and where is it something that is an autonomous creator? The same question we have to ask in art is very true in science. I teach literature, so this is something I also have to think about.
I just feel always bad about, artists who do not work in these narratives in AI or work with the technology, and I don't want them to feel excluded just because these technologies are trendy now and are being, programmed and paid for and all of these things, So I think it's just a very personal tool. However you create your work is fine, and it doesn't matter if you're doing it with these technologies or with whatever you have access to. That's your art, and that's fine. It's just currently, very hyped.
I'm sorry, but what do you feel threatened by AI? There are movements in movie writing or in the music industry where it's feared that AI would at some point just be greater than the original artists. Do you think your role as a human between AI and your artwork is threatened by the technology, or do you think you are still the masteress of it?
So what I learned over the past years talking to researchers and working in these narratives is that without human input, without human intelligence, without human training, there is no AI. So it's basically a massive mirror of our society and how we think. And that's what we put into these machines, and that's what comes out. And I'm still a fan of innovation, and I love technology, and I love, experimenting and trying new things. At the same time, I also know that if you don't look at mistakes, and if the mistakes are just little and not so harmful, they can become really big, and bias is always around, and we just need to be more mindful and more ethical. And so it's wonderful to embrace innovation, but also to what price, So I think that's my standing point. I'm not against it, and I don't think technology will overrule us at all. This is all science fiction movies. they're wonderful, but there's other harm that can happen, of course. If the training data is biased, then of course there will be harm, and minorities will suffer for sure. And so I think it's just giving space to think about what is offered to us, just because it's free, it doesn't mean it's good. You know what I mean? Yes. And all these technologies, all these apps, they're all free and we're using them happily. And we hardly ever experience mistakes with them. But that's why I wanted to highlight a mistake with Paint the Town Red, because we should pay attention to these mistakes. Because to us, they can be just fun, like at the festival, it's just going to look crazy, the building all red and strange sounds inside. We can laugh about it, or we can feel about it differently or whatever. But actually someone else might have had a different bad experience with the translation program, So it's giving space or changing the space to invite to think about these things. I don't have the answers either, but I do want to raise attention. Yeah.
Yes, because what you just said, that minorities will suffer by use of AI in some respect. I just want to highlight that because AI is trained mostly in English, or the most spoken languages anyway, so the importance of AI, or what it could have done to just bring together more foreign countries or make the platform more worldly, is not the case. It's just repeating everything that other technologies did before, enhancing English, enhancing European languages, but not the other ones that are not that spoken.
In Paint the Town Red, for example, I tried to include as many languages as I could. And it turns out that not every language in these translation models has a voice. So some have a voice, so I could listen to it, I could try to make it sing, I could, work with it. But some others are listed, but they don't have any voice, nothing. So I couldn't work with them. So there, again, it was very, very, first world country orientated. All these countries, they had a voice. So I felt there, again, really bad, and because I can only highlight those voices.
Yeah, perfect. Now you entwined language and voice again. It really makes me want to see your installation and be an audience member here in the entrance at the Burghof. You highlighted and emphasized before that audience is an integral part of your work. And you will do that again here with Paint the Town Red. There's the presence of movement and of the audio change and of the space. How would you describe your art? Is it more an installation or a performance? Because when you talk about the audience, I have the feeling that the audience has also an influence on your art and maybe changes it a bit.
Yeah, the audience is, for me, key to my thinking often. It's a bit like, I like these rituals when you go to a concert. So, for instance, you buy a ticket or you had to queue and buy a ticket and it was really expensive, you had to save money, I don't know, all these little details. And then, you know, the day's coming closer, then you go to work, when you're excited at the evening, you go to the concert. And then you get changed maybe into the clothes, or you run from work to get there in time, and then you sit, you have a drink maybe, and then you sit in the concert hall and it gets dark, and then finally you can hear it. So it's a massive build-up, you know, massive build-up to hear something. And I love playing with these ideas. So for Burghof, I had to think about the audience first, because it's the opposite. You just walk in. And usually in my work, I try everything to sort of make it, you know, like this extended build-up so you can hear something, you know. And for this one, it's the opposite. You just walk in. So this work is also for the postman who walks in, brings the post and walks out. So it's deliberately in the most public space of the building, because the models are used are all publicly accessible. No one has to pay any money. You can just go use it and go do something else. So the same essence are needed. And so for me, I always thought about the audience. I always, from the beginning, like, how will it feel like to be in that corridor that you've been millions of times? How can we change it so it looks and feels different? And how can we make it that it's like a fictional space again, something that, you know, like a surreal space that you feel like maybe that you're inside the algorithms or inside, you know, the architecture of this model. And you can listen to these voices. You know, it's all fictional, obviously. And you might feel something very different in there that I was anticipating, but it doesn't matter. For me, it's really just that you go and have a space to experience something for free. You can just visit as many times as you like, and you can, you know, look at the paint, listen to the sound, and just see what it does to you. You know, it might not do sonically anything to you. You might like the color more. You know, it might make you think about red, or, you know, I don't know. It might help you write your shopping list. That's fine too. It doesn't matter. It's more, you know, it's an invitation and a space to just talk about these things and think about us, you know, as a culture and how we live life and what's important to us.
You said that you will make the voices sing also, and singing or music is something that you revisited in your career a few times, like when the Tate Modern extension in London in 2016 was opened. You had an installation or a project with 500 choir members, and now you're doing voice again. You're a composer, of course, or you studied to be a composer. Do you find music to be a universal language? Do you find music everywhere? What fascinates you about it?
The voice and music and sound. So I think for me, what fascinates me it's a tricky question, because it's a bit like, why did Christoph rap things all the time? You know, it's a bit the same thing. It's like, I don't know. It's something, the voice has always been mesmerizing to me, and the human itself as well, you know, the person who creates the voice as well. And if you put it in context, there's so much you can read into it, you know, it's not... that's why I love contemporary art so much, because you can, you know, it gives space to think about it. It doesn't give you answers. It's just that. And with the voice and choirs and sound they create, you have a different material. It's what I love about it. It's invisible. You don't see it. It's invisible. Very easy to transport. But no, it's the invisible is a key for me, but at the same time it's so powerful, it's so moving. It can immediately move you more than any painting, more than anything, because our eyes are so lazy. We live in such a visual world, so everything's visual, and for some reason when you hear something, psychologically your ears tune in immediately. And if it's beautiful, however you want to define beauty in sound, your ear will follow. And so there is something really interesting about that. And it was a challenge to make translation software sing. They're not meant to sing at all. So that was really difficult. And most of them did not manage to sing, but some did. And when they started singing, it felt like magic. And it was like, oh my God, they're singing. And their sound so different to humans. They're always a little bit flat, a tiny little. And then I found voices that could actually harmonize with each other. And I was like, oh my God, now we're talking. So it took a long, long time to the point that you can hear Paint the Town Red. It wasn't like a quick thing. It was so difficult to make them sing. They're not programmed to sing at all. But I did the same as I do with choirs. I made a list, like I made a sort of casting list. Who am I going to cast? What am I looking for? And that was hard because in humans, I know what I'm looking for. But these, artificial voices, I wasn't sure. What are they good at? I don't know. So I had to find out. And then you have to, like every choir, you have to put the choir together and then teach them to learn to sing. And then you need to observe, like, what are they actually good at? Every choir is so unique. So I needed to find out, what is this choir really good at? And what are they not so good at? And so I had to highlight what they're really good at. And I thought I can create one choir, but you'll hear in the installation, at the end it's two different choirs. One that can sing and the other one that can't sing at all.
Perfect. You are really good in creating a mental image, even with your voice and this interview, actually. That's really cool. Thank you.
I'm glad. Let's see what you feel like when you hear it. But I think it's helpful once you're in the installation to know that they all did the same exercises, all of these voices that you hear. And that's the response I got back. So it's very strange. It was a wonderful journey. I'm so happy and thankful that I had been given time, to spend with these voices. And I'm really excited how people will feel about it and think about it. And what sort of, it'd be wonderful to hear, what other people think and hear, because I've heard them for a year now. So I'm very excited to share that. Sort of a first artificial voice choir.
I'm really excited. I always ask one question to my interview partners. What makes you an artist? This question could go in the future, present, whatever finds you. What would you say? What makes you an artist?
That's a very good question. Oh my God. Okay, let's see if I can answer this. I'm going to say this. If you and I would be sitting in a restaurant, and we'd be talking and we'd be having a laugh and just, having a lovely time, I guarantee you at the same time, even though I pay attention to what you're saying and am engaged, I have listened to, let's say, the ventilation system in the restaurant. Any noise, or the coffee machine in the back. My ear's always out for any sounds and tones in them. Don't ask me why. I don't know. It's always been like that. I think it's a bit it's an attention. You know, there's a lot of listening culture currently going on, which is wonderful. So people start listening more to things and have like groups to meet and listen more to just normal things. It's just a different attention. Like, you know, I have friends who work in fashion. They always look at colors or know exactly what that person was wearing. I don't see that. It's the same as they don't hear the coffee machine in the back that I just heard, and I can tell you which tone it was. So I think it's that, and then thinking about that, you know, what does that mean, a coffee machine? That means we're in a rich country and have time to sit down to have a coffee. You know, like little things like, you know, doesn't have to be that sinister, but, you know, it's more conceptualizing sounds. I think that's what I do.
And is the sound the specific element that appears repeatedly in art you make?
Yeah, it's always sound and visual combined. It's not just sound. It's always there's always the visual component. So it's that, and they're equal. So for me, it's really 50-50, and they belong together. And it's like two worlds that sort of are in dialogue. Yeah.
Do you try to avoid repetition, or do you want to be known for a certain kind of art?
Well, I never thought I'd do artificial intelligence art in that narrative. So that's a surprise. So you never know where you end up. But repetition, well, in music there is not such thing. Like repetition is not a bad thing. But I think to be understood, you need to create work that is not similar, but in a certain world, let's say. So it's very clear who you are. And but equally, artists need also, you know, freedom to break out and do different things. Otherwise, you do need to follow your instincts. Yeah. So I don't know if I'm repeating myself. I'm not sure, and I hope not yet. I think I do need to repeat myself a little bit more so people understand what I'm doing, maybe. But yeah.
I'm really glad we're going to see this year in Lörrach and in the Burghof, and we're looking forward to paint the town red. Thank you for your kind interview answers and also your time. And I hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.
Esmeralda Conde Ruiz hat uns jetzt viel von den Stimmen und der Sprache erzählt, mit der sie gearbeitet hat, und der KI, die sie benutzt hat. Es sind übrigens 150 Stimmen, die zum Einsatz kommen. Eine davon hat sie uns mitgebracht. Sie hat sie auch vorhin erwähnt und gesagt, dass sie sich ein Stück weit verselbstständigt hat, denn eigentlich wollte sie gar nicht, dass eine Stimme Französisch spricht. Das habt ihr vielleicht vorhin gehört. Und genau diesen Auszug, den hat sie uns mitgebracht, und den möchte ich euch präsentieren, damit ihr einen kleinen Eindruck von der Installation Paint the Town Red bekommt.
Je vais devoir aller au centre commercial, et je vais devoir aller dans le monde du monde, et je vais devoir aller dans le monde du monde, et je vais devoir aller voir ce que je vais devoir faire maintenant, et je vais devoir aller dans le monde du monde.
Wie ihr im vorangegangenen Gespräch mit Esmeralda Conde Ruiz gehört habt, ist KI, künstliche Intelligenz oder AI im Englischen Artificial Intelligence eine Herausforderung für die Kunst. Man ist noch nicht so ganz sicher, ob es wirklich ein Werkzeug, ein Tool oder ein Autonomous Creator, also ein eigenständiger Künstler ist, oder wie man damit umgeht. Sie selbst sagt natürlich, dass die Kunst und das, was sie mit AI macht, nur so funktioniert, weil sie es promptet und weil sie es kritisch reflektiert und das Ganze dann in Szene setzt. Und ich glaube, davon können wir uns alle im Burghof überzeugen. Die Veranstaltung oder die Installation wird eröffnet am 11. Juli im Burghof. Und ich bin gespannt, ob ihr alle durch das rote Glas lauft.
Danke, dass ihr uns heute zugehört habt. Und in Zukunft wollen wir auch eure Vorschläge mit in unseren Podcast nehmen. Also schreibt uns über Social Media, über die Webseite, guckt euch das Programm vom Burghof an, seid in Lörrach mit offenen Augen unterwegs oder grundsätzlich in der Kulturwelt und schreibt uns und wir sprechen drüber.
Das war der Burghof-Podcast mit Lisa Weiß-Sinn in der Moderation, Marc Eglis. Vielen Dank für die Tonbearbeitung. Mein Name ist Timo Sadonik und ich freue mich auf bald.